So you said there were three main factors that caused this shift of the social dynamic between men and women.
Mhm.
Can you give those to us?
Yeah. So the pill and birth control, the sexual liberation movement. I'll actually add a fourth, which being women entering the workforce in mass, as well as the social media slash dating app epidemic, if you will. All four of those things help shift uh, not only the general direction of humanity, but the perception of the value and utility of men in women's lives. So, we can expound on each of those if you like.
Yeah, cool. So I think the first three are pretty set. Well, no. One, the birth control
Mhm.
is leads into the sexual revolution. So let's go sexual revolution, and then workforce, and then those. Birth control is pretty much self-explanatory, but let's
Yeah.
go sexual revolution, and then the next three.
Yeah. Well, following the birth control, which allowed women the ability, for the first time in a very natural or in a very not semi-natural, but a very formalized way, they were allowed to delay and push off motherhood and development of a family. Right. So during that same time period, they also started giving men access to their bodies that historically might not have been able to. So as they started doing that, they tried to move and be like men, and they did not anticipate that they might not have had the same consequences or emotional reactions or responses that men did. So, as an example, I want to say the stats was anywhere between 70 to 80% of women at some point felt horrible as shit after a one night stand. Almost no man ever does. So that's a thing where they're in the quest of trying to be equal to men, they're putting themselves in positions where long term they're delaying motherhood, they're racking up the body count, they're increasing their chances for more trauma, and then before you know it, and then in the reason why they're able to do that for a lengthy period of their adulthood is because they entered the workforce and they're able to provide for themselves.
So just a
Yeah.
quick segue there. So,
Mhm.
and I don't think a lot of people understand this now because it's so frowned upon.
Yeah.
But a significant portion of relationships, marriages, families, and whatever started at work, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, after the Me Too movement and
Mhm.
hey, sexual harassment, all these different things, now that's taboo for men. Okay for women because shout out to Joy Taylor. Remember, Joy
Mhm.
Taylor got
Mhm.
exposed. And everybody act like, hey, I'm just gonna use this rich and high status guy, and if he says something, what I'm saying,
Backup
happened, I'm gonna say
plan.
he took the pussy. I'm gonna say he took
Mhm.
it. You feel
Yep.
me? It's
Yep.
crazy, and
Mhm.
everybody's moving away from that, right?
Yep.
But so now men have to approach women on like extremely extremely careful, if at all, especially if in the workplace, because it can be used against you as a negative, as like our parents and grandparents never had to deal with that.
Yeah. 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 And it's not just about how they've closed off various areas in our lives where we typically would have met. It's also areas in community in terms of religious, where historically now we're less religious than perhaps we've ever been. So you're less likely to meet them in a church. You're definitely not going to meet them at work. They don't want you to approach them in the gym, and everybody lives on social media.
And the
So
club either, and you can't
yeah,
even approach them in the club or the bar or the
yep,
lounge.
yeah, yeah. So it's we know that in 5 to 10 years, a lot of them that are totally fine with that are going to be complaining about where's all the men and why aren't men coming to the dating events and in the speed dates, and why aren't men approaching us, and nobody approaches me at the gym. Where are all the men? Like I see it, and the strangest thing is they're not making connections between the environment that they fostered, built, pushed, propagated, and forced on the rest of us. For whatever strange reason, they're like shocked when they get to the other side of it, and I'm like, Father Time's undefeated, the wall is undefeated, but for whatever reason, they literally don't see the wall coming until it's right in smacking them in the face.
All right, and so social media, and we'll segue social media straight into this because you said
Mhm.
two things: eyes wide open, and you, brother, you are well familiar with red pill, manosphere, all these things, and that's what the listeners can hear caught, right?
Mm.
Shout out to the passport bros. You know what I mean? Shout out to or saying, hey, if that shit didn't work, hey, I was finna,
Oh
get
no,
that
I
pass.
was gonna be one. I was gonna be one. And for those that don't know the story, when I first met my wife, then we were just starting to talk and get to know each other. As I'm introducing her to more and more of this manosphere conversations and the perspectives of men and a lot of double standards that men experience and go through. When she heard and learned about the passport bros, like she, like most women, was a little like, ew, like why they got to go through all of that? And I described to her and I told her, I said, to be honest with you, babe, a lot of you are horrible people. A lot of women are horrible people. And
Terrible.
yeah,
Shout out to
yeah.
those Mark. Y'all are terrible.
Yeah, like a lot of y'all are actually terrible people, and part of the reason why it may seem kind of jarring and shocking to you is because you're not a man on a date and doing life with women. You see them as another woman, and you don't have to live with them. You don't have to date them. You don't have to deal with their time of the month in the same way. So much of the negative things that we would typically experience within the confines of a dating or marriage relationship, you women don't experience most of that at all. So your perception is when your friend is going through something, she's always the victim. I'm explaining to you when I'm single and I'm back out there and I'm about 30 years old, it was brutal. I got attention. I got access to, I was out there. But when I would get on these dates and I would see what they were focused on, where their mind was, what they wanted from me up front in terms of paying for random stuff, I was like, man, this is just so direct and straight transactional. I was like, y'all not even like faking it. And it was getting to the point where it was like, well, if I go through this and I start reaching the milestones that I'm aiming for in my career, and I'm already seeing these types of traits and signs, I think I might seriously have to consider working abroad and taking my money out there and just enjoying my life. And I just so happened in that same season to meet the woman who ended up becoming my wife.